think tank of lawyers, entrepreneurs, and corporate professionals discussing the economic development opportunities which have opened up post-supersession of Article 370 and Article 35A. The panel would finish in 1 hour, and the 9 panelists and Laksharaj Singh Mewar would take over the stage and the key media people and publishers to deliberate and discuss the role of media for keeping the peace in the country. The session would be moderated by Ms. Rachna Sharma. Post the media discussion, Rachna would introduce Sri Swami Chidanand Saraswati, President Parmanath Niketanji, and Honorable MP and former Minister of State Anupriya Patel, and request them to give the Chief Guest remarks and Guest of Honor speech. We would also have a surprise guest. We have to keep the evening flowing. So may I please request you to wait until our surprise guest arrives, and it will be a very valuable one. We would announce his name just before the speech. Then we would wrap up the evening with thanking our partners, and then follow it up with some evening cocktails and canopies together. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the curator of the Pursuit of Peace and Happiness, working with a lot of dedication, a lot of passion. So let me request you to put your hands together for Ms. Rachna Sharma.
I would begin this sacred and very special evening by paying respect to my spiritual guide, Shri 1008 Hariman Balaji, and my Diksha Guru, who's here amongst us today, Swami Chidanand Saraswati ji. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome, thank, and congratulate each one of you. Our gathering today is not a mere coincidence or an event for the evening. It's going to be a movement for humanity. It is the collective will of each one of us that we are looking for pursuit of peace and happiness for our country. Yesterday was World Peace Day, and it is a day which is dedicated to ceasefire in war zones. Now you must be thinking, what would a day of peace or a day of ceasefire do in such a large world where 7 billion people live? And I'm very happy to share with you that the impact of one day of peace is measured by the number of children. Millions of children get vaccinated that day. Old people get regular healthcare checkups. There are people who stock up food and beverage, and there are a lot of wounds which get first aid. Now this is the impact of one day of peace. And mostly at fundamental institutions in this country which actually are responsible for economy, are responsible for decision making and diplomacy, are politics, religion, and social organizations. So the pursuit of peace and happiness is intending to be a unifying platform where people from different walks of life come together, listen, understand, and deliberate upon certain policies which lead the nation towards unity. And let me talk to you a little bit about peace before I start with the agenda of the day. In recent history, we have witnessed the atrocity of leaders like the Hitler, Mao, and also faced something like the Rwandan genocide. Now, today, all of that is gone, but we still see a lot of that visible in a lot of leadership around the world. But that does not matter anymore, because violence is declining. It is declining, and it has been declining over long stretches of time. Now you must be thinking that, and I can tell you that this is possibly going to be the last round of violence, and the future is going to be very, very non-violent and peaceful. And you might think that it is impossible, but I would like to quote this recent study of the Harvard University. Now the study says that we are actually living in the most peaceful times ever since the existence of humanity. When we say that, we are talking about, I'll just move on to my slide. Thank you. Thank you. So So over 10,000 years back, when we were into hunting and gathering societies and we had no permanent settlement or governments, a human being had 60% more chances of dying into the hands of another human being as opposed to passing away by natural causes. And our ancestors were so much more cruel and violent than we are today, because we no more get killed by ritualistic children slaughter or issues like homosexuality, or just talking back to our parents, or for that matter, a 10 minutes trial by a king to be dragged with a horse or killed underneath an elephant's leg. So these things, all of these things tell us about that average number of battle deaths. Also, this is a worldwide report. It talks about the average number of deaths per conflict have drastically declined from 1950s onwards. On an average, 80,000 people used to die per conflict, and it's gone as low as to 2,000 deaths in 2010. Now, this is a study which is telling us how violence is actually completely declining for the present times. And this decline is attributed to three things. One is education and literacy. Second is trade. And the third thing that is important is social movements and governments. So governments, when we talk about governments, we are today going to also talk about the laws which govern a country, the laws which govern this world. In our country, we call it the Constitution of India. So we are going to have this evening dedicated to talking about the Constitution of India and the latest supersession of Article 370 and 35A. Also, we are going to talk about three important factors which play a very vital role in the dynamics of peace and violence, which is political peace, spiritual peace, and the role of media in this entire process. So this was about the world, and now let me get your attention back to India. I have to mourn that a country which propagated the science of meditation and taught the world the value of non-violence, in a sample size of 169 countries, ranks as low as 140 and 141 on the reports which are generated by Institute of Peace and Economics in Australia and the United Nations. Now the question is, why do we rank so low? What are the issues? Is it the recent few years, or does it go back to our history? Now, as for me, I think it goes back to the history of country, where it was invaded multiple times, of its identity, of its heritage and its culture. Now, for example, religious violence. Now, religious violence was never the culture of India. It is when, at the time of invasion of Mughals, India was divided on basis of religion. And further on, it got divided on basis of caste, but during the British rule. Right? You're with me on this, right? So when we are talking about peace, it is very important for us that we also talk about what are the opportunities in economics and what are the key decisions which the government has taken, and we must appreciate the recent decision that has been taken for Jammu and Kashmir. Now, in my view, I believe that this was a long-standing muddy water which was creating many diseases, and it has been drained out now. And the opportunities, and today is a gathering of, I believe, a lot of accomplished men and women in this room, and you all are actually a ray of hope for the state. There's a national culture that is getting extended to J&K from here, because you all are leaders in art, science, politics. You all are leaders in healthcare, you are leaders in education, and once this culture gets extended towards J&K, they will no more be labelled as terrorists, separatists, sleeping cells, or for that matter, drug addicts. Now this is an opportunity for each one. I believe that once we start discussing and deliberating this in this evening today, we may be able to inspire a lot of hope. And before I end my speech, I would also like to talk about the recent, latest discovery in science. Is called the epigenetics. Epigenetics means how a child, a newborn he's born with an innate capacity to be absolutely violent or non-violent based on the genetic memory and based on the kind of environment or the way he gets treated. Now, Kashmir at this point, as per me, is not well. Violence has already been declared as a mental disorder by science. So you have a country and you have a state when the entire world is raising questions and challenging this decision. I think we should all celebrate the sovereignty of our country, and we should all come together and celebrate the union with our people in Jammu and Kashmir. It is absolutely very important and relevant to actually stand up for them and express the love and compassion that we have in terms of economic policies, economic agenda, and what is it that we can contribute in our capacities. And for that, we actually have the first panel today, which is going to be dedicated to that. Before I finish my speech today, I would like to first and foremost welcome Swami Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji. The more humanity Swami touches the dimension of spirituality, more sense of freedom, individuality and equality will prevail, all leading humanity to peace. Thank you for being with us today. I would also like to say thanks to Honorary Brigadier and Padma Shri awardee Dr. Arvind Lal, who has taken out his time from another event to be here with us today. Thank you, Dr. Arvind Lal. Above all, I am grateful to all the audience, my friends from Harvard, UCLA, NCR, Good Word Media, Bespoke Purpose, Malabar Secrets, companies, companions of speakers and dignitaries. Thank you everyone for taking out your time. And I'm also thankful to all the panelists who are going to go and take the stage in a moment. They will be introduced shortly to you all. I also have an instruction for Swamiji that he has to go for another event. So we'll have to mold the agenda a little here and there. May I request Swamiji to please come and give his words of wisdom to us, and then I will call Dr. Lal. Thank you.
Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Respected Dr. Lal, dear dedicated soul Rachna, and very distinguished artist of this nation and international communities, serving many fields, my sisters and brothers. Pursuit of peace and happiness. I was very young, only 8. I had the divine touch of my divine insurance company. Took me after 1 year of silence in the forest. And in that young age, seeing so many divine saints, being in the forest, being in the jungle, being in the caves and the mountains. One thing I noticed, in all of them, they were living with less. There was no door-to-door service, no Amazon.com, no restaurants, and there was no surety what to eat tomorrow. Whatever the divine gives, the fruits or whatever, you eat. Nothing was fixed that what you will eat tomorrow. Sometimes 3 days gone and you are happy whatever is being given to you and not given to you. But being there, what I noticed, mostly in all of them, कि जिसको भी पूछो, how are you, कैसे हैं, बोले मस्त, मस्त in English is super. How are you? Super. Living with less and being super. Today, in the society, we try to get all set. Our houses are set, our walls are set, we go to Bali, Switzerland, Paris, or many different locations in the world. Whenever time we get, we go and have shopping. Then, even if sometimes we don't need it, just लगता है बहुत अच्छा है, catchy है, ले लो, and we bring it. Then we are decorated with so many awards and everything. Walls are full, bathrooms are full, our cupboards are full, our shelves are full, almirahs are full. But we are not full. सब set, लेकिन अपने आप set. सच्ची बात है लाल साहब. All is set. But we are not set. But I could see there where nothing was well, but whomever yours all was well. When all is not well, it's okay, you can have a moment to complain or grumble. But there, even all is not well, how you can stay well? All is not set, how you can stay set? ये मुझे वहां सीखने को मिला. क्या है? What is that which makes us, rather than being in peace, in pieces, rather than being set, upset, rather than being better and better every day, we become bitter and bitter every day. Why? क्या है वो जो सब कुछ होते हुए भी हम खाली हैं, अलमारियों के शेल्फ भर जाते हैं, our almirahs are full, shelves are full, but self is empty. The spirituality says nothing wrong. Going in the world, shop, no problem. Have your almirahs full and have your shelves full. But at the same time, we must pay attention, my self is not empty. My self also is full. जब तक self, गुरु नानक देव जी महाराज, हमारे अभी मैं 550th last week, I was in Bangla Sahib, Gurdwara Bangla Sahib. We were talking about this issue. Look at Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, 20 rupees. Father gave it to him, जाओ सौदा करके आओ, कमाओ. He took 20 rupees. When he went to the city, on the way he saw so many people who were in need. They were hungry. They needed food. They needed shelter. गए बाजार, बाई किया, लेके आए और उनको खिला दिया. कुछ औरों को देखा, वहां बांट दिया. घर पहुंचे,